Hello, how are you? If you or someone you love is 60 years old or older, stop everything you are doing to watch this video right now. There are some foods that you consume on a daily basis, even thinking they are healthy, that may be harming your heart at this very moment. And worst of all, sometimes the same food that you tolerated relatively well at 30 or 40 years old, today at 60 or 70, acts as a true biological detonator for your heart. I will reveal to you exactly which these foods are and the changes you can make regarding substitutions so you can continue eating tasty foods every day and protect your heart. You are going to love this video. Stay until the end. You won't want to miss it. Before we start, I wanted to ask you how old you are. Have you ever had any cardiovascular problems? Write it down for me here in the comments below. Many people really start to worry a lot about the health of their heart and arteries after 50, 60 years old. And we keep wondering why, right? Is there some magic switch that makes our heart weaker as time goes by? Why does this danger become so extreme now after we've passed 60 years old? The thing is that aging, natural aging itself, can silently deregulate our entire body, gradually bringing 4 dangerous transformations to our overall cardiovascular health. First is the production of nitric oxide, a key gas that naturally relaxes the vessels in our body, which can plummet significantly as we age, making the overall risk of arteries hardening much higher. Second is that as the years go by, many people have an increase in a constant state of low-grade inflammation, that chronic inflammation. Third, oxidative stress starts to rust, so to speak, the cells that are healthy. So, this worsens cell health over time. And fourth, the speed at which fat plaques form increases exponentially as the years go by. So imagine a garden hose that's old, receiving pressure absurdly above its limit, day and night for decades. It can start to crack and peel, and that is exactly what high blood pressure can do to your cardiovascular system. This high blood pressure causes physical micro-injuries to the inner layer of the vessel, which is the endothelium. And where there is this crack, our body ends up generating inflammation to try to glue it back together, right? To try to repair this tear, let's say. And it is in this inflamed wound that cholesterol deposits itself to create the healing factors there, so to speak. And this microscopic structure that lines the interior and that you need to save and prevent these cracks in is the endothelium, just so you can better understand the concepts. So it is the endothelium that will determine this level of flexibility of the vessels, of the arteries, and this has everything to do with the health of our heart. So now that you've understood some basic concepts, I'm going to start explaining to you which foods you should avoid to protect your heart, your endothelium, reduce this issue of blood pressure risk, and this accumulation of oxidized cholesterol, which we know can be risk factors for cardiovascular problems as we age. Look, the first food on our list has to be processed meats. Not just ham, salami, sausage, bacon, but also turkey breast, smoked turkey breast. Many people fall into this healthy trap saying, I'll swap red meat for a turkey breast sandwich here, thinking they're protecting their heart, right? This is a very common mistake. These processed foods, these cured and smoked ultra-processed meats, are full of nitrites and nitrates that turn into nitrosamines in the stomach, which cause immediate vascular dysfunction and create stiffness in the arteries. On top of everything, they are also rich in sodium, which forces the heart to pump blood against a concrete wall, right? There's much more fluid in the blood, right? Sodium retains fluid, and so it actually increases blood volume, causing more harm and putting more strain on the heart. So it's interesting that we avoid consuming these products. I have a video here on the channel teaching how to make homemade mortadella, homemade sausage, which can be great substitutes. Also remember that you can replace these cold cuts with tuna in water and salt, which is wonderful for the heart. Boiled and shredded chicken, boiled eggs, making a spread with cheese. These are much more interesting options for you to replace these ultra-processed foods and cold cuts in your daily life to improve your heart health. Just to be very clear, when I talked about turkey breast, I'm talking about that turkey breast sold sliced in those delis, actual cold cuts as if it were ham. I'm not talking about natural turkey breast like I would talk about a chicken breast, the actual bird, 100% natural. That one is wonderful. You can and should continue consuming it. In fact, if you want to roast it and slice it very thinly, it's super good in a sandwich. The second food on our list is instant soups and bouillon cubes. I say this because many people at this age say, I don't want dinner, I'll just have a soup. Sometimes they are too tired to make soup, so they buy those packet soups, which are loaded with sodium. Or they say, I want to eat vegetables, but I don't really like vegetables. I'll add a bacon bouillon cube here, a beef bouillon, a chicken bouillon to make it taste good. And it ends up that you take a food that was wonderful, the legumes, the vegetables, and add an absurd amount of sodium. Sometimes a single little packet of this salt or a seasoning cube can contain an entire day's worth of sodium. And just imagine you consuming all of that at once. This extreme amount of sodium pulls water into the bloodstream all at once. The fluid volume becomes very, very high indeed, and the arteries end up getting squeezed, right? Blood pressure skyrockets, so the ideal thing is to avoid it. Always prioritize homemade soups. There is a playlist of wonderful soups here that you can make. Very well seasoned, but 100% natural. And healthy seasonings too, right? Make the most of natural spices, fresh herbs, and aromatics. That way, you can also control how much salt you add to your dishes. The third problem is soft drinks. The villain here, when we talk about soft drinks, is really the issue of liquid sugar, which causes what we call hepatic lipogenesis, because it triggers the amount of fat produced in the liver itself, also spiking triglycerides and potentially increasing or even generating, in some people, insulin resistance. So this metabolic chaos simply shuts down the ability of the endothelium, that vessel wall, to produce nitric oxide, leaving the vessels unprotected. So, of course, we have to mention that many people who consume processed juices, energy drinks rich in sugar, alcoholic beverages rich in sugar, any type of liquid sugar will have the same problem. So here comes our next ingredient, which is boxed juices, specifically boxed, bottled powdered mixes. On top of everything, besides the sugar, there's water, there's food coloring, and often glucose syrup. It's completely different from if you were to take a piece of fruit and eat the fruit itself. And it's completely different from if you took an orange, blended it with the pulp, right? With everything, the fiber, with water, and drank it. So if I feel like having a juice, I take 7 strawberries, blend them without straining, and drink it. It's completely different from these industrialized juices. So this sugar shock, right, in excess generates violent oxidative stress. Once again, it can damage the endothelium wall. So consuming liquid calories like that, especially very sugary ones, is not recommended on a daily basis precisely to protect our heart. It's also really worth mentioning all those sweets and sugary desserts that can easily form those harmful advanced glycation end products, right? The famous AGEs. They really drive that whole caramelization process inside our body. The daily consumption of this refined sugar continuously causes this harmful reaction with the body's natural proteins. So it's as if the sugar turns into a hard caramel. It hardens various proteins in our body. And that's also what it does to the arteries. They lose the elasticity they should have, and blood pressure increases significantly. So if you are someone who suffers a lot from high blood pressure, you have to control your sugar intake. When we think about blood pressure, we think about sodium, but sugar is also terrible for blood pressure. Another major item on our list is frequent fast food, right? There are many people who have the habit of consuming fast food on a daily basis or constantly buying these highly ultra-processed, industrialized foods. Remember that they often have a bad combination, right? Of high sodium, trans fat, sugar, glucose syrup, very simple and highly refined carbohydrates. And this can increase fat accumulation in the belly area. So it can increase the risk of insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, and this accumulation of fat in the belly area ends up functioning almost like an independent organ that produces inflammatory substances that attack the heart. We know that this visceral abdominal fat is the fat most closely linked to cardiovascular problems. So it is very important to avoid consuming these foods on a regular daily basis. Also, be careful with the frequent consumption of fried foods and deep fried foods, whether it's trans fat or deep frying vegetable oils. Cooking oil, when heated and reused, can undergo dangerous thermal mutations, releasing toxic substances like aldehydes and acrolein. And in the bloodstream, these toxins promote oxidative stress that is brutal, truly significant, acting directly on the endothelial cells of the vessel walls. So, frying is highly inflammatory to the cardiovascular structure and should be avoided in daily life. I also want to give you a bonus here, something that isn't food, right? But people consume daily, which is alcoholic beverages. Alcohol in high doses or frequently consumed, right, directly attacks the heart muscle. Many people don't know this, and the heart ends up losing the elastic contraction capacity it has. It can become more dilated, unable to pump blood well, leading to shortness of breath. So on top of everything, excessive alcohol consumption can lead to fat accumulation in the liver, can lead to metabolic syndrome, can lead to metabolic lipidemia problems. All of this harms the heart, besides being super caloric, right? 1 gram of alcohol has 7 calories. So 1 gram of carbohydrate and protein has 4. So just for you to understand that alcohol by itself is already quite caloric. And there's also the problem that alcohol lowers inhibitions. So when you consume a beer, when you consume wine, few people consume that without eating anything. So since it lowers inhibitions, you would probably eat foods that you wouldn't normally choose in your day-to-day life. You would usually make healthy, thoughtful choices. Since alcohol takes away that sense of control a bit, there's also the problem of it worsening your food consumption. Of course, there are wonderful foods that, if you are thinking about protecting your heart, you should add to your daily routine, such as olive oil, for example, which is very rich in omega-9 and natural antioxidants, berries, cocoa, which are rich in polyphenols and flavonoids, green tea, super rich in EGCG, arugula, spinach, and beets, which are sources of natural nitrites and nitrates that the body immediately converts into pure nitric oxide, which is healthy for us, and potassium and magnesium themselves, which help stabilize the heartbeat and force the kidneys to eliminate excess sodium retained in the body. So, consuming a diet based on vegetables, greens, plant proteins, low-fat dairy, plenty of fiber, and smart carbohydrates in your daily life is the best option for you to improve the health of your heart and your arteries. If you want more tips to improve the health of your heart and arteries, I have a really cool playlist here with many other videos that you will love. I will leave the link to this playlist right below. So, if you found this content interesting and it opened your eyes to a subject as important as the health of our heart, do your part now and share this video with your friends. Let's expand our chain of kindness. Leave a like on the video because it is very important to me, and subscribe to the channel. I have a new video every day. See you next time. Bye.